without the Yamano County brand would be considered ineligible. Forging a noble's brand was a serious crime on the level of misrepresenting yourself as a noble, so it was unlikely anyone would attempt it. This would also ensure that everyone would buy a copy of Reversi for themselves, even though one board was plenty for two people. These girls are evil. Well, if it drives home the notion that Reversi originated in Yamano County and that it would be shameful to buy a copy without my brand, I'm all for it. Mitsuha decided to end the meeting there. All that remained was to hammer out the details. She had been sleeping at her store in the capital for the last few days, so she decided to sleep at her residence tonight. As far as anyone in her county knew, she wasn't traveling far for whatever business she was performing. It might raise questions if she never slept at home. All right, I'll sleep with Colette tonight. That'll make her happy. I'm gonna return to the capital and check on the stall first, though. You sold out today, too? Yes, even though we brought extra this time. The line wasn't nearly as bad as yesterday, but... Philip trailed off. He had joined the team again today. What happened? We got a lot of complaints about the Archpriestess not being here. And there were some people who just stood off to the side staring into the stall. This was pretty much as Mitsuha had expected. There was nothing the kids could do about complaints of her absence, and the people watching the stall were likely trying to figure out the secrets of making popcorn after trying and failing to do it on their own. Unfortunately for those suckers, they weren't going to learn anything from watching the children. Other varieties of corn wouldn't pop because they lacked the tough hull of popcorn, and even then it needed to be dried first. Even if someone did pick up a few dropped kernels of popcorn and planted them, then harvested those seeds and planted them, and so on, it would take a long time for them to build up a steady supply. By then, popcorn would already be cemented as a Yamano County brand product, and any competitors would be seen as cheap imitations. Regardless, Mitsuha had never set out to monopolize the sale of popcorn. All she wanted was to make popcorn popular so that eventually the crop grown in Yamano County would make good money. The popcorn stall would never make enough on its own to have an impact on the economy. It was just an advertisement for popcorn. It was her own county's product that she wanted to make into a brand, not this stuff. Mitsuha was aware that some people would start planting the popcorn kernels they bought once she put it on the market, but there was nothing she could do about that. She just had to maintain her share of the market using her brand status as the original. The distance between her county and the capital might become an issue, though. What, you're worried the stall's sales will drop once popcorn is available elsewhere? I mean, I never planned to turn a huge profit from the stall. The orphanage will still make enough for daily food expenses even if sales drop a little, and besides, I ain't running a charity. Our interests just happen to align in this case. This is today's total sales for lightning corn, Philip said. Let's see here. Wait, what did he say? What kind of corn, now? Lightning corn. All of a sudden everyone was just calling it that. People have decided this corn must have come from a field you blasted with lightning. Lightning corn is short for lightning archpriestess corn. Too short. What, I'm just lightning now. Whatever. I'm going to bed. Mitsuha decided to get to work on her plan to popularize Reversi. Papermaking and other endeavors could wait until after ballroom season was over. Given the distance from her county, it would be unnatural for her to come to the capital too often. Anyone she met with would assume she was exhausted from the journey, and she couldn't meet with everyone every time she jumped here lest they realize how often she visited. That made ballroom season the perfect opportunity to meet with as many people as possible in her efforts to popularize Reversi. Mitsuha just had to begin preparations for the tournament and announce it before the season ended, then she wouldn't need to think about it for a while. It would take time for the copies of Reversi to be produced, shipped, and put on the market, and they would sell decently on their own without Mitsuha having to shove the game down anyone's throat. She was planning on holding the tournament during the next ballroom season. So, pets. In addition to our prepared fish, can you please pick up all the finished copies of Reversi and Shogi when you come to my county from now on? I'd like you to take care of selling them, as well, Mitsuha said. Sure, I don't mind. What? Are you sure those are gonna sell? Pets replied. Absolutely. I swear it on old lady Ortane from the candy store. Who the heck is that? Pets gladly accepted Mitsuha's request, but on one condition. I'll do as you ask, but I have one request. What is it? You know that illustration the kids are using at the popcorn stall in the square. I'd like to put it on my carriages. Would you be okay with that? Huh? Sure, doesn't bother me. If you want, I can introduce you to the kid who drew it. That would be amazing. Thank you. It was a strange request, but Mitsuha didn't mind granting it. Plus, it would be a great opportunity for the orphan who drew the logo to make some money and form a connection with a merchant. Mitsuha couldn't possibly bring herself to stand in the way of the child's potential career as an artist. She told Pets she would have the child contact him, then departed his store. Mitsuha had already written up explanations of how to play both reversi and shogi. Reversi's rules were easy to explain, but shogi was a pain and a half. She wrote the instructions by hand, and supplemented them with pictures downloaded from the internet. Thank goodness I have a multifunction printer that can make copies. If anyone saw me at a convenience store copying sheets of paper covered in strange writing from another world, they'd either think I was a total nerd or some kind of cult member. I live in a rural area where everyone knows each other, so any unsavory rumors would spread like wildfire. I don't even want to think about it. Mitsuha was going to wait to distribute the instructions and start advertising until after the supplies of reversi arrived from her county. There would be no point in advertising a product that didn't exist yet. Even if Pets departed for Yamano County in a few days, he was going to stop in every town along the way to sell his wares, so it was going to take him a while to complete the round trip. She would just focus on advertising to the upper class in the meantime. Huh? Why am I not just using world jumping to bring the games here? I can't rely on my ability if I want to establish permanent trade between my county and the capital. I don't know when I might get in an accident or fall ill, or God forbid have to flee this kingdom, and if Yamano County's economy required my presence to function, it would collapse. I need to see that my people can manage without me, so that if I disappear, they'll be able to maintain their quality of life under the next lord. Even if that lord returns the tax rate to its former level, so other than a few sets from Japan to introduce the games to the upper class, I'll let the rest be delivered by normal means. What's the big deal if I cheat with a few sets? Loosen up a little. Also, it's only been a day. It's not like using the ones produced in my county is an option yet. Mitsuha went right to the orphanage to take care of the matter of the logo. The artist turned out to be a 9-year-old girl. She had even come up with the design herself. I already knew that a kid drew it, but holy cow. What is up with this orphanage? I'm starting to believe it's some kind of training facility for a secret organization that gathers talented kids from all over the land. Before returning to her store, Mitsuha dropped by Japan to buy a few more copies of reversi and shogi. Could have saved myself some effort if I'd just bought a bunch last time, but oh well. Sabine was waiting for her in front of the store when she returned. Mitsuha, you're late. Sabine whined. What, are you my boss? This is why I've been telling you to give me a key. No way. It's really dangerous for her to be around the store when it's closed and the security system is on. I could teach her how to change the security setting, but that would give her free reign of the store. Then I'd have to tell her, most of, the truth about my world-jumping ability, and make her an accomplice to all my bold-faced lies. No, Mitsuha said firmly. Sabine looked dejected. Man, Sabine's impish side is cute, but she's adorable when she's down, too. Wait, hold on. That makes me sound like a sadist. Come on, I'm a viscountess, not a marquis, and I've never been in an insane asylum, I swear. Mitsuha turned off the security and opened the store. She had hardly reached her seat at the register before Sabine asked to watch a DVD. Wait, What if she only likes me for my DVDs? No, don't think like that. I'll lose my faith in humanity. Hey, how about we play a fun game instead? Mitsuha suggested. A game? Sabine repeated. Yep. This one here, Mitsuha said, showing her a copy of Reversi. It's so easy, an ancient dragon could learn to play it in 30 seconds. But ancient dragons are smarter than humans. Oh yeah, I forgot. I guess ancient dragon doesn't work. Maybe goblin would make more sense. If you beat me, I'll do anything you ask. It can't have anything to do with the store, though, Mitsuha said. Let's do it, Sabine exclaimed immediately. Heh, that was too easy. I lost. She wiped me down. Wiped the floor with me. I've played so many times with my friends, though how could this happen? That was pretty fun, Mitsuha. I'm a natural, aren't I? Sabine said with a smug grin. Damn it. She's gonna be insufferable after this. You really didn't think you were going to lose, did you? You were smart enough to say I couldn't ask for anything related to the store, though, huh? Oh well. Thank goodness I thought to say that. This could have been a disaster. Okay. Remember the other option you gave me when I chose the thingy that lets me talk to you when you're back in your domain? I want that, too. Oh no. Mitsuha glanced at the guard standing by the wall and quickly looked away. The man was deathly pale. He looked like he might cry at any moment. Sorry. Afterward, Mitsuha asked Sabine for her thoughts on Reversi, which only served to confirm her hunch that it would sell well here. Part of the reason it had a good chance of success was that this world had no decent pastimes. And Reversi was beloved even on Earth, which was overflowing with ways to amuse oneself. Simple yet deep and refined, it was guaranteed to be a hit as long as word spread of how fun it was to play. I shouldn't have made that stupid bet with Sabine, though. It's gonna lead to a lot of pain and suffering. And the poor old dude standing by the wall is gonna bear the brunt of it. I really am sorry. Trying to make the best of her blunder, Mitsuha handed Sabine copies of both Reversi and Shogi, as well as the instructions for both, and asked her to challenge the king and chancellor. If Sabine beat them and got them both hooked, Mitsuha wouldn't have to do any convincing of her own when it came time to make the sale. A little later, as Mitsuha was measuring Sabine for the purposes of buying her a bike, she had a sudden realization. Shit, I've really done it now. She's gonna follow my example and get the king and chancellor to make some outrageous wager over these games, isn't she? Glancing up at Sabine as she measured her legs, Mitsuha saw that the princess had a smile on her face, a truly wicked one. This is bad. Really bad. I'll keep the king and the chancellor in my prayers. Good luck, guys. The next morning, Mitsuha went to a bike shop. Sabine was never going to stop pestering her until she followed through on her promise, and it's best not to procrastinate with things you don't want to do. Safety is of utmost importance when buying a bicycle, so Mitsuha wanted to go with a quality Japanese-made bike instead of something cheap. A granny bike would technically be within the bounds of our agreement, but she'd probably push it too hard and break it. Maybe I ought to get her a mountain bike, then? What about a road bike? No, bad idea. The roads in that world aren't good enough. Road bikes only really make sense on well-paved roads, and they aren't meant to stand up to kids' rough treatment. A cross bike, then? No way in hell. Think of the consequences of giving her an all-purpose vehicle like that. Do I really want Sabine showing up at my residence unannounced the day after I return to my county? That's a terrifying thought. Sprinting aside, not even a horse would be able to keep up with the average speed of a cross bike. If Sabine ran away and the guards didn't notice until a few hours later, they'd never find her again. A sturdy mountain bike would be the best choice after all, then. She'd be able to reach my county using that, too, but at least it would take a little longer. I'll sleep a tiny bit better, anyway. Mitsuha asked one of the experts at the bike shop for advice, and after sharing Sabine's measurements and telling them it was for a growing girl, they brought out a few candidates. Mitsuha picked the one she thought Sabine would like best, and also bought panniers, a helmet, and some knee and elbow pads. She elected not to buy training wheels. They didn't go with a mountain bike, and knowing Sabine, she would master riding it in a day anyway. "You have no idea how sorry I am, Mr. Sabine's guard, sir." It was the day after her embarrassing defeat against Sabine at Reversi. Mitsuha had said she would be gone in the morning, so Sabine showed up first thing in the afternoon. No one's surprised. Mitsuha pushed the mountain bike along as she and the princess, who was practically glowing with excitement, made their way to the royal palace. There would be more space to practice there, what with all the courtyards and so forth. Sabine's guard trudged gloomily behind them, sharing none of the girls' joy. "Once again, I'm sorry. I'll bring you some whiskey or brandy next time. I promise." Naturally, they were let through the gate at the royal palace without question, and went straight to the courtyard Sabine suggested. Mitsuha began by explaining how bikes work and how to ride them. Sabine nodded along with the explanation, seeming to properly understand everything. I knew she'd pick it up right away. Next, Mitsuha demonstrated how to ride it. "I got really good at riding a bike after 3 years of commuting to a high school in the mountains. Most girls pushed their bikes up that hill, but I always rode all the way to the top. I had to stand up and use all my weight, or the pedals wouldn't even turn. That morning commute got me in really good shape, so while I may not have much stamina, I'm good at short-distance races. I'm a pro at pull-ups, too." "Oh, the reason I'm good at pull-ups is that I'm light and my short arms mean I don't have to pull myself very far? I see. Well, I'm still good at biking." Mitsuha grabbed the handles, did a wheelie, and spun around to show her full mastery of the bike. Sabine's eyes were shining, her guard seemed nearly catatonic. "I'm so sorry. I hope you can forgive me." And he's down. Once she had her helmet and pads on, it was time for Sabine to give it a try. She fell a few times, but mastered the bicycle with impressive speed. Yep, that's what I expected. After watching Sabine practice for a while, Mitsuha suddenly realized that the king was standing behind her. And he wasn't the only one. When Mitsuha looked around, she saw that a whole crowd of spectators had gathered while she was too focused on the princess's lesson to notice. One of them must have informed the king. Yeah, he's probably gonna want an explanation, Mitsuha thought. But "Mitsuha, please teach me how to win at Reversi," was all the king said. She beat him. "I wish I could help you, but Sabine crushed me, too. That bike is her spoils." The king hung his head. "I wonder what Sabine got from him. How about you challenge her to a game of shogi? Not even she should be able to beat an adult knowledgeable in the ways of battle." The king looked like he was about to cry. Oh, he lost at shogi, too. Woof. While Mitsuha was patting him consolingly on the shoulder, the chancellor raced up. "Lady Mitsuha, please teach me the secrets of Reversi and shogi." "You too, Chancellor? Join the club." Mitsuha ended up going with the story that her friends from back home sent her the mountain bike, and Sabine won it from her in a game. The king looked like he wanted to give her a piece of his mind, but seemingly decided he was in no position to do so, having made a similar mistake himself. "What exactly did you promise her, Your Majesty?" "Well, you know what they say, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. I can benefit from this situation. The people of the capital will get used to bikes from watching Sabine ride hers around the city, and no one's going to complain to the princess or press her for the secrets of her new vehicle. This means no one will bat an eye if I eventually start riding a bike, too. Being able to bike around the capital would be so convenient. This is great. I'm really good at finding the silver lining in any situation. You know what, I'm glad this happened." No, I'm not." That night, Mitsuha received a certain visitor at her store. 5 days later, Sabine jumped on her mountain bike, shook off her guard, and raced into the city. This had become her new routine. He knows where I'm going, so what does it matter if I race ahead? Sabine thought giddily. He'll show up drenched in sweat before long, and until then, I'll be able to relax with Mitsuha away from his watchful eye. When she reached Mitsuha's general store, however, she was shocked to find the guard waiting for her, his arms crossed and a smug look on his face. Behind him stood a cross bike. A young girl on a mountain bike had no chance of outracing a grown man on a cross bike, especially not someone as fit as this guard. He was going to trail Sabine starting tomorrow, but just for today, he had wanted to reach the store first and get a little revenge for the stress she'd been putting him through over the course of the last week. He was only human, after all. "Mitsuha, you jerk!" Sabine screamed. When the guard visited Mitsuha's store in the middle of the night to beg for a bike of his own, Mitsuha couldn't bring herself to turn him down. She felt responsible for the situation, and despite the contradictions the presence of another bike would create with her story, she granted his request. She figured the Chancellor suspected how she had actually obtained the bike anyway, even if he didn't say it outright. There was also the fact that the guard knew quite a lot about Mitsuha, thanks to his constant presence at Sabine's side. It was implicitly understood that guards were to be treated as if they weren't there, and that they would never share anything they saw or heard while on duty, even with their employer. Without this assurance, people would have to keep their guards at a distance when discussing important or secretive matters, leaving them undefended in the event of an attack. Mitsuha knew all this, and always spoke freely with Sabine when the guard was around. As such, the guard knew that Mitsuha had gotten Sabine's mountain bike within a day of the princess demanding it. He was afraid he would be unable to fulfill his duty of protecting her unless he did something, and even though he was well aware it was against the rules, he opted to beg Mitsuha for a bike anyway in order to keep Her Highness safe. Mitsuha's guilt rendered her unable to refuse. It was her own dumb mistake that put the guard in that impossible situation, after all. Giving him a bike would also be the best thing for Sabine's safety. It wasn't a guarantee Mitsuha's store would be Sabine's destination every time she sped out of the castle, and even if she did go to the store, she would be unguarded for the short period of time before the guard caught up. Mitsuha hadn't forgotten the event that precipitated the first appearance of the Lightning Archpriestess. It took 5 days in total to obtain the cross bike and then for the guard to practice feverishly during his off hours until he had surpassed Sabine in riding ability. It helped that he remembered the entire explanation Mitsuha had given Sabine. It was, after all, his duty as the princess's guard to understand the vehicle she was to ride. That night, after he returned home, the guard treated himself to a rare drink. It was a liquor from a distant land, which he had received from Mitsuha along with the cross bike. This brandy was a strong drink with a wonderful aroma and flavor. He enjoyed it very much. Meanwhile, Mitsuha visited the Bozacy's capital mansion. The Count had invited her to dinner when she made the appointment, but she would have felt bad intruding on their meal with the business she wanted to discuss, so she'd asked to meet him later in the evening. She didn't want to stay too late, though, so she got right down to business. "Count, I've come here tonight to show you something I made. I'd like it to catch on so it can become a new cash cow for me," Mitsuha said. Wow, that came out really direct. The Count and I are just that close, so I try to keep it real with him. "What is it?" Count Bozes asked. "It's a game. I'll show you how to play." The Count nodded along as Mitsuha explained the rules of Reversi. Lady Iris, Beatrice, Alexis, and Theodore listened, too, of course. They were all concentrating very hard, as if they were afraid they wouldn't be able to play with Mitsuha if they didn't memorize the rules. Well, they wouldn't. Mitsuha played a practice round with the Count while she explained. Once that was done, they played their first real match. Mitsuha went easy on him and won a close game. She played more seriously in the second match, but somehow, the Count won. She gave her all in the third match, and wound up infuriated. "I'm not the one who's supposed to be getting worked up. I should have known the Count would be good once he grasped the game. I wonder who would win between him and Sabine." Mitsuha gritted her teeth through another infuriating defeat in match 4. I can't believe I went 2-3 against a beginner, she thought, then noticed Lady Iris's hand on her shoulder. Guess I'm playing her next. Lady Iris was good right from the start, having closely studied Mitsuha's matches against her husband. Mitsuha could see the older woman was trying to secure the corners, but she didn't seem to be trying to flip over that many of Mitsuha's pieces. Just as she began to wonder if Lady Iris understood the rules, Mitsuha realized she had nowhere to play. She was forced to skip her turn, and watched in horror as her overwhelming advantage disappeared in no time. Is this how people who are actually good at the game play? Rare. Mitsuha ended up going a shocking 1-4 against Lady Iris, a rank beginner. Shut up. Sure, I've played this game a lot, but it was always with my middle school friends. I don't know any pro strats, I haven't joined a Reversi league, I haven't devoted my life to the game, and I'm definitely not part of a secret Reversi society that's trying to conquer the world. I don't even know the standard sequences. Mitsuha sobbed softly inside her head. Next came Beatrice. Their matches were good back and forth affairs. This is more like it. They had a fun time, and Mitsuha ended up going 4-1 thanks to her experience. Despite the lopsided outcome, though, the matches were close, there were no Lady Iris-style beatdowns. Well, there you have it. That's Reversi. I brought another game called Shogi, but the rules are much more complicated. I'll leave the instructions, so just read them when you get a chance. I'll be back to test you guys, Mitsuha said. This was quite enjoyable. So, what is it you want from me? Count Bozes asked. The Count sure doesn't beat around the bush, either. My plan is to market Reversi to everyone, while for Shogi I'll start with the nobility and military brass, then go from there. Reversi is simple and easy to get into, which makes it a perfect introductory board game. Once people are hooked on Reversi, I'll introduce them to the fun of Shogi. If you could show off these games at social engagements and whatnot, convey how enjoyable and healthy for the military mind they are, I would greatly appreciate it. But how can I do that without anyone to play against? If you need an opponent, the King, the Chancellor, and Sabine all know how to play. They know Shogi as well. Sabine is the best of the lot, though, so be careful if she asks you to make a wager. Wah! The Count caught his breath, but whether that was because of who she had named or because Sabine was the best among them, Mitsuha couldn't say. It'll be another 20 days or so before I receive more stock, so be discreet for now and stick to influential people. Introduce it to a few people at a time. We don't want to be obnoxious with it. After about 15 days, I'd like you to be more aggressive in showing it to as many people as you can. It sounds like you're preparing to usurp the throne. Ha ha ha, don't worry. The King is in on it. The Count gave a wry smile. I'll never get tired of seeing refined middle-aged men smile like that. Mitsuha. Mitsuha turned around to see Alexis and Theodore standing there with the Reversi board. Oh, it's getting late, I'd better head home. I'll leave these Reversi and Shogi sets here, so feel free to play against each other. Good night, you all, Mitsuha said. That's not. Come on. They were both aghast. Did they want to play me that badly? Whatever, they can play each other all they want. It's late, I'm outta here. Oh yeah, Alexis is a Viscount now, shouldn't he be off on his own? Was he just visiting his family today? Or maybe he's staying with his parents because he doesn't have enough money to buy a mansion in the capital. Life's tough sometimes, huh? Mitsuha meant to just say her goodbyes and leave, but Count Bozes and Lady Iris accompanied her to the gate. The Count even offered to drive her back to her store, but she turned him down and walked. He let her go without a fight because he knew she could escape instantly if she was in danger. Lady Iris disapproved but didn't say anything. She was not privy to Mitsuha's secret, but she must have figured there was a reason the overprotective Count let her leave alone. Maybe she thinks I have secret guards who follow me around? The last thing Mitsuha heard as she walked away was Lady Iris shouting, "I challenge you, Klaus." Sweet, they're hooked. Mitsuha's next move would be to visit Adelaide's place, in other words the Reiner mansion, then the Pastors, the family whose party she didn't go to, then the residences of other nobles who had seemed like good people. They had all told her she could visit any time she needed something, after all. This would all be during the day. Of course, she only felt able to visit the Beausecies at night because of their close relationship. And by good people, I mean just that. I'm not talking about people who are good for my business. Probably. Oh, and by the way, I've been to a few more parties since the one hosted by. What was their name? The family with the philandering son. Anyway, none of them impact my daily activities because they're all in the evening. They've all been exactly the same, too, so they didn't really stick in my memory. Occasionally I meet talented or useful people, or people to be wary of, and those names I write down, then enter into my computer later. Nope, talented and useful aren't the same thing. Totally different beasts. A talented person isn't necessarily useful, and a person with no special talent can still be immensely helpful. There are exponentially more people who are neither talented nor useful, though, and only a very few people fit both categories. Ultimately, useful is the baseline I look for. Mitsuha liked to project herself as a person who is difficult to use, so she hardly ever had to deal with unwanted approaches. That was why she chose a small and remote domain as well. It was such an unattractive territory that not even a third or fourth son with no title to inherit would want to marry into her family. She thought it would be an effective way to repel pests. A lot of nobles have been trying to push their sons onto me lately, though. They may not be malicious unwanted approaches, but that doesn't mean they aren't unwanted. I wonder if people have caught wind of my plans to develop my domain. Mitsuha spent the next few days visiting the noble families on her list to lay the groundwork for her reversi and shogi takeover. She ended up needing to return to Japan again to buy more of each game. It had been her plan to ask the nobles to spread word about the games, but that proved unnecessary. All of the families were thrilled to receive a visit from Mitsuha, and beyond excited about the games. Many of them began to venture out of their own accord, ward and pieces in hand, looking for worthy opponents to teach and play against. 16 days after Mitsuha visited Count Boses's mansion, a small crowd had gathered in the capital's main square. What are all these people here for? To watch a couple of mercenary girls play some kind of game, apparently. It's simple but fun, from what I hear. The crowd's been here since morning. Huh. Sounds interesting. Are the girls cute? One's cute and the other's a babe. I'm gonna check it out. Mitsuha had hired mercenaries to play reversi in public throughout the capital, though she'd had to go to the mercenary guild, since she'd hired Sven's party to work in her own domain. Some were dressed in ordinary civilian clothes, and while she put out the call for both men and women, the majority of her hires were women. She'd picked the mercenaries personally rather than leaving it to the guild because they would be advertising her game. Appearances were important. Hardly any mercenaries turned the job down, and that wasn't just due to Mitsuha's reputation. There was also a rumor that good luck came to any who accepted a job from her. Though it's also true that Mitsuha prioritized people who seemed like they were struggling to make a living. The square was crowded with spectators sitting on the stone steps, lightning corn in hand, watching excitedly as the mercenaries played. Word about the game began to spread. One afternoon after a meeting in the royal palace, the attendees were about to leave when the king made a sudden invitation. Anybody want to play shogi or reversi with me? Shogi? Reversi? The attendees shared puzzled looks. They weren't ready for what happened next. That sounds great. I'll play with you, Your Majesty. Hey, no fair. I need my rematch first. I brought both games. We can set up 2 tables. You carry them with you everywhere you go, Count? The king, the chancellor, and some of the highest-ranking nobles began talking excitedly. What are they talking about? Could this be a chance to enter the king's inner circle? What is this shogi? Damn it, I don't understand a word anyone's saying. The nobles who weren't in the know panicked, rushing to find someone who could fill them in. Word about the games spread rapidly from there. 4 days later, posters had been put up all over the capital. A new way to play. Reversi and Shogi, now available for purchase. Tournaments will be held for both games. The winners will earn the privilege of dressing up the Lightning Archpriestess however they like, patting her head, and eating dinner with her. One person can't actually win multiple prizes, Mitsuha thought. What a scam. The night Pets arrived in the capital with his cargo, Mitsuha put up posters advertising Reversi and Shogi in all the places he had gotten permission to do so. She had complained about the false advertising, but Miriam insisted on sticking with it, saying it was important to build excitement and that people wouldn't sweat the details. Well, she's the sociology expert, so I guess I'll trust her on that. She's dealing with any complaints we get, though. They decided not to make flyers in addition to the posters because of the prohibitive cost of paper. This world had paper, but it was poor in quality and ridiculously expensive. That was exactly why Mitsuha was entering the papermaking market. She never would have done so if there had been an abundance of cheap and high-quality paper already available. The paper of this world didn't feel like it was made from wood, but whether it was straw, linen, or cotton, Mitsuha couldn't say. Technically, the trial paper being made in Yamano County didn't come from wood either, but bark, straw paper. Now that takes back. Well, what we call straw paper in Japan isn't actually made of straw anymore. It's just lower quality or recycled paper that inherited the old name. You can't even find straw paper in Japanese stores anymore, it's all high-quality paper nowadays. To be fair, I wouldn't buy it even if I could. The sheets would jam my printer, and mechanical pencils wouldn't work with the rough texture. Oh, that's probably why you never see it anymore. Makes sense. Customers rushed to Pets' store at the first sign of daybreak. Is this where Reversi and Shogi are being sold? Pets' stock sold at a breakneck pace until there wasn't a single game left. All 600 copies that the 79 people of the 2 mountain villages spent 15 days making sold out just like that, Mitsuha thought in disbelief. Pets had paid 1,800 silver coins to purchase the games, the equivalent of 18 gold coins. The majority had been Reversi, with only a few copies of Shogi mixed in. Shogi took longer to make, and Mitsuha didn't think it would sell much anyway because she was targeting the nobility and military brass before the general public. Plus, some were deluxe editions, which took even longer to make. The villages ended up making 1,800 silver coins in 15 days, which was about 86 coins per household. That was more cash than a couple of small, self-sufficient villages would know what to do with. How in the world did they make so many? The provider in each household works in the mountains, and the housewives have to spend time on chores and working in the fields. How hard did the old people and children work to make these? Did they sleep? The games ended up selling for a total of 2,880 silver coins. It might have seemed like Pets was taking too large a share of the profits for himself, but Mitsuha didn't think so. The round trip took him over 20 days, and he also had to deal with personnel expenses, the cost of consumables, escort fees, the depreciation of his carriages, and the risk of losing everything to bandits. Considering all that, it was a fair price regardless of how much additional stock he also carried on the way there and back. Apparently, Pets had also worked every night of the return journey writing characters on the shogi pieces personally. Mitsuha had adjusted the names of the pieces so they'd be easier for the people of this world to understand. Some pieces, like the king, could be translated directly into the equivalent word in the local language, while others had to be changed. A few of them had given her real headaches. Oh, I shaved the characters off the pieces from the sets I bought in Japan to give to the king and the other nobles I visited. That's why I chose copies with wooden pieces instead of plastic. Also, I just wanted to avoid bringing more plastic into this world. What should we do, Mitsuha? Pets groaned. Yeah, we're squandering a huge sales opportunity by not having any more stock right now. Send another carriage, post haste. Head straight for Boses County and Yamano County with minimal stops, and pick up all finished copies. You can bring along goods to sell when you get there, and then consign whatever's left at my county store, Mitsuha said. Understood. I'll send my fastest carriage. It'll get there faster than a stagecoach, Pets declared. He sounded very motivated, though Mitsuha wasn't sure exactly where his enthusiasm was coming from. This was a lot of money for the 21 households of the mountain villages, but Pets had a store in the capital and sold goods all throughout the kingdom, so the earnings likely wouldn't be that significant for him. What are you talking about? This isn't about the amount of money I'm making. No merchant worth his salt would pass up a chance to take part in the joy of such a commercial success. Ah, that makes sense. Pets sent a carriage later that same day, though he himself didn't go along. Is he sure an evening departure is such a good idea? He didn't even hire an escort. Mitsuha asked him about it. Bandits won't be a concern. That's why I asked for permission to use your coat of arms, Pets responded, pointing at his remaining carriages. They all bore the logo designed by the girl from the orphanage. What the? We actually encountered bandits on the way back to the capital. When they approached my carriages, I yelled out, "Do none of you see this crest? We are merchants delivering cargo for the Lightning Archpriestess. If you attack us, the Archpriestess herself will punish every bandit in the land with her divine lightning." They fled right away. No bandits will even think of attacking a carriage carrying your crest. Good lord. Fine, do whatever you want with that logo. I don't care. Afterward, Mitsuha jumped to her county and ordered an emergency increase in production. She told the villagers to put aside any work that could wait and focus on making reversi and shogi for now. She also enlisted the aid of the farming and fishing villagers to help with the time-consuming process of making shogi pieces. The mountain villagers made the deluxe versions aimed at the nobility, while the other villages made the cheap versions meant for the general public. They still made far more copies of reversi, however. Mitsuha also subcontracted work to the town. That meant profits that would normally have gone to the mountain villages ended up with the town instead, but it was better than passing up a business opportunity. The popularity of the games would surely spread beyond the capital, too, ensuring long-term sales. The villagers ended up having to use different materials for the reversi pieces to keep up with demand. They used painted wood for the pieces in the early versions, but eventually they started sticking shells together and painting them, and even tried leather. Anything would do. Let's just call it variation. Anyway, this is an emergency increase in production. We're doing our best. Woof. I probably shouldn't have started selling these games until we had a good stock built up. But that would have required the villagers to continue making them without the assurance that they would sell, and it would have been a while before they saw any real income. I could have purchased the copies they made to compensate, but their motivation would have suffered. Anyway, what's past is past. All I can do now is ride this tidal wave. Mitsuha, do you have any more copies of reversi and shogi? The lack of available stock is causing an uproar among the nobility. Everyone is afraid that being unfamiliar with the games will be a social impediment, so they're desperate to get their hands on them. Count Bozes had come to see Mitsuha at her shop. Yeah, the games did sell out right away. The nobles aren't the only ones in an uproar, though. The commoners are just as desperate. I'm sorry about all this. Mitsuha decided to jump to her county and bring back all the deluxe versions that were ready. I know this is cheating, but it's an emergency. I can make an exception. Pets's carriage returned in just 13 days. How could they have made the journey so quickly? Huh? He loaded the outbound carriage with non-breakable items instead of prioritizing profit, and ordered the driver to travel as fast as possible. The driver continued even after dark, so long as he could see the road. They changed horses on the way and then switched back to the original horses on the return journey. That's intense. The carriage had arrived in Yamano County about 20 days after Pets bought the first batch of games. The county had been in emergency production mode for the last 7 days of that period, and the number of workers involved had increased from the 79 people of the mountain villages to 684 across the whole county, over 8 times as many people. Not literally everyone in the county was involved with production. The cooks were still cooking, for one. But the extra hands increased production dramatically. Plus, they made the reversey pieces with much greater efficiency once they started using materials other than wood, and Randy's suggestion of die cutting was very helpful as well. Wait, how many did they make? 5,800. Holy moly. I need to make sure I don't wait too long to call an end to the emergency production order. They're pushing themselves so hard. Huh? You're gonna send another carriage tomorrow? Oh, yeah, I guess you'd better. Meanwhile, over at the Boses' mansion, Iris was training against the Count with her eyes on the prize, but he was desperately trying to talk her out of entering. You don't need any of those prizes. You can eat with Mitsuha any time you want, or dress her up, go on a walk with her, pat her head, hold her hand. As nobles, we should concede these chances to others. Iris puffed out her cheeks and slammed a piece onto the board. Check. Beatrice and Theodore were beside them, training at reversey. Alexis hovered over the table, studying their game intently. They were all determined to win a prize. At the Reiner mansion, Adelaide was playing reversey against her younger brother. Their father had taken the board Mitsuha gave them, so Adelaide was borrowing a copy her maid had succeeded in obtaining, on the promise that she would only use it while the maid was working. Half my snacks per day is a total rip-off just to borrow it, though, Adelaide grumbled. She wasn't happy with the arrangement, but there was no way she was going to turn down the bargain. I need to get my own copy as soon as possible. There was still demand after the second shipment of games arrived, but the market had calmed considerably. People had realized that it was only necessary to obtain an official Yamano County board by the time the tournaments began, and that they could practice however they wanted until then. Some were even drawing grids on the ground and using various objects in place of the discs. That can't be an easy way to play, though. Oh, by discs, I mean the black and white pieces you use to play reversey. That's what they're called. The reversey and shogi tournaments wouldn't be held until the next ballroom season, so everyone had plenty of time. Delightfully, many who started playing solely for the tournament prizes were realizing how fun the games actually were, and getting hooked. All according to plan. To help drum up excitement, Mitsuha started visiting nobles and challenging them to matches. She gave prizes to those who beat her disposable lighters for the men, and feminine hygiene products for the women. These she demonstrated how to use in a different room. She hardly beat anyone, though. Her only experience playing these games had been with her friends, and she had never practiced as seriously as the people of the capital were doing. I don't care that I'm not winning. All I'm doing is promoting products from my store. I want to give out these prizes. Grr. Well, word's getting around that the archpriestess is visiting the homes of nobles who are playing reversey and shogi, so the fad is only taking off even more. Mission accomplished, I guess. I can't beat anyone anymore, so I'm done with touring the noble mansions. With some free time on her hands, Mitsuha made her first visit to the mercenary base in quite a while. So I just felt like popping on by. Mitsuha finished. Do you make a point of being unpredictable, lil lady? The captain asked, looking tired. You've got letters from all over the world. Here you go. Quoi? The captain dumped a massive pile of letters into Mitsuha's arms. Do I need to read and respond to all of these? I wonder if I can send emails. Also, do you want to open a bank account somewhere? You've got cash coming in from the dragon parts and such. Oh, sweet. That dragon's finally making me some money. I wonder if they sold the scales or something. It hasn't been long enough to expect any profit from the research. There's only one place I want to open an account, though. Deposit the money into a Swiss bank account. Mitsuha tried to look as enigmatic as possible and spoke in a deep voice, doing her best Golgo 13 imitation. That an impression or something? Don't stand behind me. Still not getting it. If I make a bunch of money here, should I stop bringing gold coins to Earth? No, I can always make money in the other world using my knowledge from home, even if I end up having to move to a distant land all by myself. On Earth, though, I'll be broke and jobless once I use up the money I inherited from my parents. Yep, I should transport some gold coins here. I can skip converting them and put them straight into my deep pocket, then transport them back to the other world if I ever get a decent enough cash income going here. First, I need to set up a bank account and deal with all these letters. As Mitsuha told the captain, she wanted to put the money into a Swiss bank account. Swiss banks were known for keeping the identities of their clients anonymous. They used this secrecy to attract deposits from wealthy people, politicians, dictators, and criminals all over the world, which was said to protect Switzerland from any threat of invasion by other countries. That was one of the major pillars supporting Switzerland's permanent neutrality, in addition to universal conscription and a powerful military. A country couldn't achieve permanent neutrality simply by declaring it so, it still needed the means to protect itself. Its supposed neutrality would be over the moment another country decided to invade. Mitsuha wasn't referring to any one bank when she said Swiss bank, but rather to any bank that abided by Swiss banking laws. It's like how Yomano cuisine refers to any dish that uses Yomano techniques. Kind of. There were a variety of banks in Switzerland, but when a Swiss bank was mentioned in novels or manga, it referred to a private bank that not only didn't pay interest on savings deposited there, but actually required an account maintenance fee. You couldn't just walk in and make an account at one of these banks, you needed to pass an interview and an evaluation of your finances. Huh? You don't think one of these banks would even let me in the front door? Yeah, there's no way a mysterious little girl would pass muster. Mitsuha looked at the pile of letters as she pondered. Maybe I could open an account if someone introduced me. Someone with proper gravitas. I don't want to involve myself with any major world powers, though. I want a good person from a small country, someone a little eccentric, but well-known and influential. Oh, that kind of person doesn't exist? Fine. I'll just pick one at random, then. Most of the letters turned out to be invitations to parties and events, many of which had already happened since Mitsuha had been away so long. Others were requests for ore and animal samples, or offers of weaponry and technological guidance. They're probably just trying to sell me the outdated weapons sitting around in their warehouses. As for the technological guidance, I'll bet they're just hoping to send people to the other world to gather information. Well, I'd consider hiring any engineer who might be able to make a bike that could cover 170 miles on unpaved roads in a single day, using only materials from the other world. She continued to look through the letters hoping to find someone who could introduce her to a Swiss bank, finally reaching the last two envelopes. They were from the two small countries she had provided with biological samples. According to the captain, they had been delivered directly by those nations' agents rather than through the postal service. First, she opened the letter from the country to which she had given various types of medicinal plants. Huh? 2 of the samples I gave them are almost exactly the same as species that already exist on Earth. 3 of them have medicinal components already discovered here. Oh, they found one ingredient they didn't understand, and they're continuing their research. That's good, at least. I feel bad they didn't learn much. Maybe I should give them more plants and animals. The other letter was from the country to which she had given a collection of small animals in exchange for those wooden ships. Whoa, that's interesting. The slime turned hard and elastic like rubber when they exposed it to acetic acid. I haven't found rubber trees in the other world yet. Now that I think about it, we can't make bike tires without rubber or any of the other necessary additives. This might be a huge discovery. Normally flesh gets softer when you add vinegar. Wait, they tried eating the slime? No one even does that in the other world. It gets larger when they feed it food waste? That sounds like a feng. Phew, okay, they ended up concluding that slimes aren't fit for consumption. Don't scare me like that. Mitsuha decided to ask them to continue research on the elasticity effect. She would fund their research if they couldn't get any money for it on Earth. I should give them another animal, too, something worth studying. Not long ago, someone from the fishing village in her domain had caught a strange creature out at sea. Mitsuha posted a picture of it on the internet and got a lot of responses like, "It's an anomalocarid da lol." Apparently it had existed on Earth, but went extinct long ago. Well, that sucks. When the time came, Mitsuha passed muster and successfully opened a Swiss bank account. The letter of introduction had worked like a charm. The person who wrote it didn't accompany her to the interview, of course, they had to be secretive, and it wasn't easy for them to travel abroad. They simply wrote the letter and confirmed that it was genuine when the bank inquired about it. The major world powers hadn't gone beyond sending Mitsuha invitations, but she felt like they were going to begin approaching her more assertively before long. She doubted they would do anything hasty as long as she made it look like she didn't come to Earth